Hey, Northbrook fam, just want to shoot a quick video to give you an update on really, obviously, as things have escalated with the coronavirus and how that's affecting Northbrook and our plans moving forward. But before I get into a lot of the logistics, I just really wanted to encourage you with something that was really encouraging to me this morning as I was just reading through the CBR reading from Kings, Second Kings, and then Romans 4. Came across a passage that actually has meant a lot to me for many years. As we were thinking about planting a church a while back, God used this passage pretty significantly in my life. And just wanted to share it with you. In Romans 4, and verses 4 and 5, Paul says, "Now to the one who works, his wages are not counted as a gift, but as his due." And in verse 5 it says, "And to the one who does not work, but believes in him who justifies the ungodly, his faith is counted as righteousness." And so I'm going to update you on a handful of different things, but really regardless of what tomorrow brings and the weeks to come bring, it's really encouraging just these simple truths of the gospel and how they can't be taken away from us. What Paul is saying is that when I work, it's right for us to expect money for the jobs that we do. And so often we kind of project that on the gospel and think that we can earn what God has done for us. And Paul is saying it is actually nothing like that. That you can spend all of your blood, sweat, and tears towards trying to earn what God has done for you, and it would all be for naught. But the beautiful thing is that Jesus has given his blood, sweat, and tears to earn what we could never earn, and that we get to believe upon what he's done by faith and enjoy and receive his righteousness on our behalf. And that is just one of those truths that can never be taken from us. And so I hope those truths, I hope you continue to seek God for those truths in light of all that's going on. We need wisdom. We need nuance. We need to be able to lead and navigate during these kind of confusing, interesting, unprecedented times. We need all of that, but we also need just the simple truths of the gospel that really can never be taken from us. So I hope we continue to cling to those as a church. And so just to give you a little insight, a little behind the scenes look in the last kind of 24 hours of my life. It's been about 5 or 6 video calls, one after the other, even starting with last night. We had our Tuesday night meeting as elders, so me, Reed, and Randy FaceTimed and met. It was actually just our typical Tuesday evening elder meeting. And talked about all that's going on and talked about what it looks like to be pastors during this season, to care for you and care for the flock, and just how to navigate this as this new church that we're starting. And then it's always an encouraging time with those brothers, as you can imagine. And so just seeking God together, and was encouraged by that time. And then this morning hopped on a phone call with other church planters that I'm in a cohort with that are planting throughout the country, and just checked in with each other. I talked about the ins and outs of how we're navigating all of this, and then hopped on another phone call with Acts 29 pastors, where Brian Howard, the executive director, just led us through some of the ways churches are responding, and some helpful tidbits that we got from each other as we talked through that. Then I actually talked with a brother, Israel Martinez. He did the church planting cohort at the Village, and he's planting in Irving, and they were actually on the exact same timeline as us, looking to launch March 29th. And so it was great to pray and just mutually encourage each other and talk about how we're navigating this now that all that's thrown off. And then from there, hopped on a last video call I've been on so far today with an organization called Plant Fort Worth. It's just a group of churches in Fort Worth that partnered together to plant churches. And we had Brian Bird, he's a city councilman for Fort Worth, on, and he was really helpful. He's also a Christian, loves Jesus, and it was just really helpful to hear from him and how the city's navigating this, and what we can do to help. I actually mentioned to him that it seems like it feels like there's more desire and to help and volunteer and meet needs than there are actually needs right now, and he completely agreed with that. That may change in weeks or to come, but that's kind of where we're at right now. And he actually said the best thing we can do as residents of Fort Worth is just to stay at home well, to quarantine well. He encouraged getting out to the park, going out and playing golf, getting outside, but but actually, abiding by those, the recommendations that are put out by, CDC, City of Fort Worth, and other places, just so we can try to get ahead of this as best as possible. And they're looking at, cities that are a week or two ahead of us, and number of cases and whatnot, and what it's looked like for them, and trying to take measures to keep us from being there. But as he mentioned, and as many of you know, just the, also considering just the financial repercussions, and as obviously the federal government is considering and looking to try to do things to help that. So it's helpful to hear from him, and really all of those phone calls. So what does this mean for Northbrook? Well, I think the last official update we gave is that we were going to try to have a launch team service on the 5th, and then launch on Easter, April 12th. And then, as you can imagine, we're not planning on that now. We actually don't know when we can start to plan to gather together in person at Sunset Valley. And so really, that we may be able to start making those plans a week from now, and maybe 4 weeks before we can start to make those plans. And so we just really aren't sure, and we're in the same boat as all the other churches. That question was actually specifically asked to Brian Bird, and he said he would not plan on gathering for Easter as a church. And he did actually mention that as a city, they haven't planned canceled Colonial yet. So if PG comes back online, that they would hope that they could maybe still have Colonial, which is in May, I think mid-May. So maybe, they're hopeful that things will turn around by then, but, they and we, there's just a lot of unknown by everybody right now. So we will just start to explore live streaming options. So we hope to start to kind of see what the best option might be for us, and then actually have that up and running by March 29th is our current plan. And so, just like many other churches right now that are kind of getting thrown into this live streaming world, we're going to do that as well, for an opportunity for us to kind of meet and gather in that kind of way. And there are, it's not ideal, it's not what we would hope for, obviously not what we envisioned, but there are opportunities there. One, just a vast amount of content that now is kind of flooding the internet that is good gospel-rich content, because churches are having to move to these kinds of answers to the current situation. But then also, it's not just flooded with content, but it's also a way to kind of localize the content on the internet, in the sense of we're not just all going to the internet to listen to our favorite pastor, which is great and which we all do, but we're going to the internet to listen to our local pastor, so that we can kind of have that community feel in a time where some of that is being taken from us. And so I'm encouraged and hopeful for what God might do, as us and many other churches just start to move in this direction for the next period of time. And then I'm also going to talk about, I'm going to send out another video about groups and how we look to roll those out, but I want to devote it's a completely separate video to that, so you can look forward to that coming. I would just encourage you to look to the people around you, look to the people close by, how you can serve them, look to people that might be isolated. If you know single people that are a part of Northbrook or that aren't, that reach out to them, in those groups of 10 or less that are still not being discouraged. Consider gathering together with them in that way. And people that are 50 above, the kind of the people that are most at risk in regards to the coronavirus. I would encourage you to really think about helping them quarantine and not being around them, but also how can you reach out to them and consider them. Consider FaceTiming instead of phone calling. At a time when we're not getting to see each other as much, consider at least seeing each other virtually. It could be really helpful. It's really encouraging. Me and Ginger did that with a couple last night, and FaceTime, and got to pray for them as they had some things going on. So I just like, hey, can we just FaceTime so we can actually see each other instead of me just calling and praying for you? And it was really encouraging. It was a good time. And so I would encourage you to consider that. And then, as I read out of Romans 4 this morning, one of the things I've really been trying to do, and I really would encourage you to do, is before you start your day by going to the news, by going to Facebook, by going to a screen, would you just consider pausing and looking to the Word and praying for a moment before you do anything else? Because especially right now, where there's just this kind of hum in our hearts towards all that's going on and consuming new information, it could be really helpful just to consider who God is and what He's done before you move on to anything else. So we'll be coming at you with more updates, probably daily, definitely weekly, as the days go by. So love you, thankful for you, and hope to see you soon.